Good morning, risers, and welcome to the show. We have a most excellent one for you today. Excellent, that's a new word. Fantastic is my go-to description for the show.
I like it when you change it up, Robby.
We'll try excellent from now on. Briahna, what's going on?
Well, we have Liz Wolfe with us to discuss the IRS audits, and James Kirchik discusses the impact Viktor Orban, the Prime Minister of Hungary, had on the CPAC conference. Plus, Davario Mauro discusses the weaponization of the FBI and U.S. intelligence agencies that Black people have known about for years.
But first, Newsweek is reporting that the raid on Mar-a-Lago was based on information from an FBI source. This confidential person somehow knew the documents that Trump was hiding and even the locations of those documents. Two other anonymous government officials told Newsweek, and was deliberately timed, so this was interesting, timed to occur specifically while Trump was not at Mar-a-Lago. According to Newsweek, the anonymous government sources say the raid was scheduled with no political motive from the FBI and was meant to be a low-profile event. Trump blasted the agency on Truth Social, however, saying, quote, "The FBI and others from the federal government would not let anyone, including my lawyers, be anywhere near the areas that were rummages and otherwise looking at during the raid. Everyone was asked to leave the premises. They wanted to be left alone without any witnesses to see what they were doing, taking, or hopefully not planting." Why did they strongly insist on having nobody watch them? Obama and Clinton were never raided despite big disputes.
I love that you added the Trumpian syntax there, Robby.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, Politico fanned the flames of another January 6th event taking place, or rather, their anonymous government source did. The unnamed congressperson warned that the GOP base has lost its mind, adding that if Trump decides to call them to arms, I think we could get another January 6th, according to whoever that is. Meanwhile, Steve Bannon discussed the deep separation between the far left and the far right. Let's watch.
People in the middle kind of seeing how this thing plays out. Same thing in the Civil War. Any great effort always starts with a relatively small group. And look, we have, I totally disagree with our opposition, but they are absolutely believed to the core of their being that they're right, and they're not going to give up. One side's going to win here and one side's going to lose. We're not going to all of a sudden have a great kumbaya moment and hug this out. You can't hug this out because we have two different ideas, two different visions of what this country is.
Speaking of not hugging things out, CNN's Dana Bash and Tim Scott went back and forth politely, pointing fingers at the other side over the issue.
His information on the federal court's website, it was taken down. And look at that. It says access denied as a way to protect him. Should your colleagues, your Republican colleagues, tone down the rhetoric?
Well, Dan, I will say that this is unprecedented. It's shocking. It is disturbing from my perspective. What I said earlier, I think I was on another station. I said, I'm asking my friends on the other side, wait, don't rush to judgment. But this is without question a very daring and dangerous move on the Department of Justice's side. I can't imagine them finding a smoking gun in the midst of what they're looking for through the Presidential Records Act. I'm stunned that they did it.
You said the folks on the other side should hold off. It's the folks, some of the folks on your side, including and starting with the former president. He's the one who broke the news with a really incendiary statement. Should they tone it down? Because there's potential for things to go south quickly.
Both Republicans and Democrats are calling on the DOJ to release the information on its Monday raid. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said Attorney General Garland and the DOJ should already have provided answers to the American people and must do so immediately. So from my perspective, the most interesting information in this Newsweek story was really the implication that no, it was about these records, these classified records, these records that shouldn't have been taken. It was not connected to some deeper January 6th information search or something like that. That no, what we know to be the case is actually the prime reason for the raid, which, and at one point, yesterday or the day before, however many days this news cycle has lasted, there were people, and not just arch Republicans, saying that if it really is only about some misplaced records, this seems like a nothing burger and it's actually going to play to Trump's advantage.
Yeah, it's difficult because you're right. It is unprecedented given the kind of minor seeming scale of what's going on. But if it is true that there are sensitive documents that potentially pertain to the events on 1/6, and that there has been some evidence that Donald Trump, despite his statements to the contrary, was not cooperating, and per Maggie Haberman was destroying documents, or at some time did destroy documents. I wonder what you think the recourse should be. Is the rule that if you're the president of the United States, there is just nothing you can do about it if you want to take sensitive, potentially classified, maybe not, we'll find out obviously, but potentially classified documents and destroy them? Is the rule that the presidents are just above the law? Or should the rule be, fine, if you do it to Donald Trump, you should also be doing it to Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, or whoever else comes down the pike?
Well, and to that point, it was actually Donald Trump who signed put into law this greater enforcement for doing exactly what he's been accused of doing now in the wake of Hillary Clinton emailgate,
right.
which is always a good lesson for anyone who wants to put more laws on the book to punish their enemies, their opposition. These will always be used against you.
But a real point there is that so much of why presidents don't punish former presidents is not out of the goodness of their heart. It's not because they want, the consistency and ease of transition and all of those things that they talk about. No, it's because they know they're very likely to do similar things that could become under similar levels of scrutiny. So every president complains about the expansion of presidential powers of the guy before them, and then does the exact same thing and never does anything to sanction the person before them, because they want to have that same power. It's an institution that's always going to protect and grow its own power. And I don't know that as individual citizens, regardless of whether we're sympathetic with Trump in this instance or not, should be trying to ratchet the balance toward more impunity for powerful people, even if we are concerned that some people are being more under scrutiny than other people on a political basis.
I mean, certainly there should not be more impunity for powerful people. Powerful people, in fact, should be subject to greater, they should be, the rule of law should apply to them even more because we've trusted them with this immense power. There's just such a difference, in my view, between holding the powerful accountable for authorizing illegal drone strikes on American citizens abroad, or starting wars based on lies, or massive financial wrongdoing, or, you can go down the line, and then at the very end of the line, there's putting a box of documents in the wrong place.
Right, well, but I will say, 100% I agree, except for we have yet to find out exactly what the content of the document. All documents aren't made equal. And if it becomes true that either there's nothing there or whatever they were trying to target was also not substantive, then I completely agree that this seems like an expansion of what is normally done in a way that's going to delegitimize the process and not actually be, targeted to achieving anything new. But there's still the possibility, and I think it is very premature to be presuming that this is a nothing burger, but there's still the possibility that, there was a goal here that matched the level of the intervention. And we'll have to keep following the story and see what happens.
It was also idiotic for the FBI to think that, if we do this raid while Trump's not there, it'll be low key, it'll be like nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
What are they thinking?
Well, partly because of the nature of Donald Trump, but I also just want to play that out a little bit. Is the contention that they should have gone when Donald Trump was home, that would have been better for Donald Trump and his child to be in the
I'm not
house,
saying it was going to be a thing no matter what, but they were saying that maybe it wouldn't even be a thing. Maybe it wouldn't even reach the news cycle if we did it when he's not there.
Well, this does remind me a little bit.
That was really dumb if that was actually their thinking.
Well, look, I think that it would be naive for them to think it was going to go that way just because of who Donald Trump is.
They're very naive.
But I do think that has some interesting parallels to Nancy Pelosi's trip to Taiwan, where some people thought, yes, she is the highest official in X number of years to have gone, but it isn't entirely anomalous for members of Congress and other senior officials to take trips to Taiwan. What really escalated it was the Chinese media official who blasted a tweet out saying, China basically has the right to blow her out of the sky. This is unprecedented. And that created a media cycle. So, Trump is behaving similarly, and I think has very astutely created a very sympathetic media cycle for himself out of this. Whether or not the FBI should have anticipated that, I think we both are in agreement of that, and maybe it should have done a better job of warding that off.
Anticipated, yes. Critics of Hunter Biden were quick to point out the president's son boarding Air Force One yesterday. Some Republicans pointed to the FBI's handling of Hunter's laptop as a double standard after the raid. Now, of course, the weird thing here is, so Republicans are simultaneously now saying, dismantle the FBI, take it down. It should not exist. Brick by brick, remove it. And the FBI needs to investigate Hunter Biden.
Right.
If you can't trust these people, this is the Republicans trying to have it both ways or all ways. That like we're the party of law enforcement. We back the blue. These are good guys. Just a few bad apples. Actually, it should all be just taken down. We dismantle it. We can't trust this entire agency. And also, they need to go after Hunter Biden. You gotta pick one of those stances, people.
And I
just
suspect they're not going to. Look, this is the subject of my radar that I think that the Republicans have cottoned on to something kind of good right now, and it's healthy to have the skepticism of these institutions.
Yeah, I'm more in the dismantle it.
When the left talks about things like systemic corruption, systemic issues, systemic problems, the word systemic, I know, has a really negative valence among many parts of the right. But what they're describing with the FBI, where it has systemically been used, weaponized against opponents of the state since its very founding, when it was basically founded to attack socialist and communist movements in the United States, that is an issue. And there could be, short of dismantling, if you want to talk about
transparency. And often it was Democrats directing the FBI against those.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different political time where those labels switched and flopped a lot. But it's a conservative status quo enforcing institution, and always has been. And Republicans have been supportive of it when they are members of the status quo, and been critical of it now when they feel like they are outsiders. So the question is, are we going to have a real hard look at these kinds of institutions, or are we both just going to cheer when our team is able to wield this weapon that 9 times out of 10, regardless of what your politics are, hurt working class grassroots movements and protect elites?
Well, exactly. And that's what I was saying yesterday or the day before about how Republicans have voted for and given more funding to all of these agencies that they now claim are ideologically against them. All of the Patriot Act kind of funding, that the spying, the wiretapping, the harassing of conservatives or conservative political figures like Donald Trump, all being done under the auspices of things they authorized, things they voted for. Because national security will be unsafe if we don't have this level of government surveillance of people.
It's quite the heel turn. But Robby, I also wanted to ask you about what you thought of Steve Bannon's comments there, evoking a civil war, saying that there are two sides here that believe passionately in their political perspectives and are not going to compromise. I wonder what he sees as those two sides that are uncompromising.
There is nothing that makes me roll my eyes more than coming from the right than the Civil War rhetoric, because what are you gonna do, dude? Like, are you taking up arms? Are you gonna it's a lot of tweeting. Well, the people talking about it, they couldn't get their greasy fingers off the Twitter button for 5 seconds to start a Civil war. It's just talk.
Robby, there has been reporting that I was watching, bipartisan different channels, and I was looking at MSNBC's reporting after watching a lot of Fox News reporting, and they were talking about going to the same Reddit channels and online context where a lot of the 1-6 planning and conversation had been, and many of the same actors who were involved and present at 1-6 are apparently speaking in similar kinds of terms about doing something in response to this, FBI raid. And so I do think, even if it's not necessarily the same people who spend as much time online
don't get me wrong. It's irresponsible, and it can produce some kind of organizing that spills out into violence. I'm not saying. I'm saying it's irresponsible on their part, and it's never. These people don't participate in it. These people are goading. This is kind of what Trump did on January 6th himself, goading other people to go, take up arms, do something ridiculous, and then all you do is get those people in trouble. It accomplishes nothing. There's not going to be an actual a civil war of consequence that is going to change the direction of our country or our government. There's going to be, at most, you get Proud Boys and Antifa fighting in the streets of Portland, that kind of thing. It's LARPing. It's live action role playing. That's all this rhetoric is. This rhetoric is encouraging that kind of thing, which is not a viable solution or means for political change whatsoever. So it's just stupid to be talking about it.
Well, and as a populist, it has frustrated me that someone like Steve Bannon, who has really been flying that populist banner for the last 5 years or so, is going to talk about how there are these intractable divides in American society. Whereas from my perspective as a left populist, there is so much that is agreed upon that goes ignored because there are these elites that are stoking exactly the kind of cultural battles that Steve Bannon is stoking here. And imagine how powerful it would be if there was someone with his platform that was speaking to the reality that both people like Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis and Joe Biden should be doing a lot more to actually improve the lives of the people who are considering potentially reacting in the way that they reacted on 1-6.
Indeed. Well, it looks like we're going to continue this discussion for your radar, Briahna, and that's going to be up next.